2022. After the reorganization meeting, we will start our regular meeting. So to begin with, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance with the reorganization, but after we close and go into regular, we won't have to. We'll just go right into the meeting. So I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Welcome to guests here tonight. The first item on the reorganization is approval of the agenda. We don't have any additions, corrections, changes. Have a motion? Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We have no consent agenda. We have no oath of office, so nobody had to run this year. Next year there will be some more that will run. The next is public comment. Do we have any comments from the public? If so, keep them to 3 minutes. None, we'll pass. Departmental reports, none at this time. Previously discussed business, we have none. The new business is the committee and board appointments. There is some correspondence for these with that packet that was sent to you. I'll just go down the list starting with 2022 annual appointments. Attorney, what we'll do is go through down to the official city newspaper, and I'll ask for a motion on those items, and then we'll continue on with the commissions and the different committees. City Attorney, Flattery and Hood, there is a letter in your packet from them. City Engineer, Matt, eyes are focusing, Wolf, S-E-H. This evening, Finance Advisor, Northland Securities, Bond Counsel, Kennedy Graven, Chartered. I'm not trying to focus on some reason. Attorney, the City Attorney, Clifton Larson Allen, City Fund Depository, First National Bank of Moose Lake, official city newspaper, Star Gazette. Do we have any questions or discussion on those first items? And there are letters in your packet. If you have read them, it's not necessary, but they're there. Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept those items? Appointments?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We move on to the Planning Commission. We have myself, Doug Jutman, City Council, Doug Skelton, Joanne Unson, Roland Hayden. I think Mr. Hayden's appointment was up, and he did state that he would like to stay on the committee, so his will run till 2024. I think what we'll do is run down through this page and then do another motion on these people in committees. The Economic Development Authority, Doug Jutman, City Council, Greg Sarva, City Council, Yvonne Skelton till 2023, Terry Burns, 2022, 12/21. I think Steve Olson was the one whose time was up, and he does want to stay on the committee, and his will go till 12/21/2024. Zoning Administrator, Alyssa Owen, City Administrator, Housing and Redevelopment Authority, Sharon Hoppy, Catherine Wexeth, Alice Miller, Barb Isaacson, and Joanne Morrissey. There's two, Alice Miller and Barb Isaacson. Theirs will go till 12/31 2024, and they both want to stay on the committee. So I'd have a motion to accept those 4 appointments.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to the next page, Park and Recreational Board. Myself on the council, Walt Lauer on the council, Becky Leaf Custer Township. Now the next 4 people all have timed, or they will on 12/21/2022. Ross Stewart, Marnie Hollis, Graydon O'Lean, Lowell Urban. There is one vacancy. We did advertise it, and we didn't get anybody to volunteer. But we still, those people all want to be on the park board, and that'll still give us a quorum. Moving down to the library board, Walt Lauer, council, Karen Johnson Township, Ann Sawyer. She was the one whose time had lapsed. And we do have one vacancy, and Dave Manet, so there was no volunteer for the empty position, correct?
Correct, and Ann Sawyer's actually new to the board. She did write a letter stating her interest that I included within the packet, but we will have one vacancy left on the library board as well.
And we still will have we still will have the numbers we need for the board to hold meetings and make decisions.
I believe they're reaching out to a few other people.
Okay, if they do, they'll come before the council then. Cemetery board, Greg Sarvila from council, Mike Peterson, June Mackey, Walt Lauer, Natalie Thorpe. And I think there's 2, Walt Lauer and Natalie Thorpe, and both want to be on the cemetery board. Natalie was not a new, she was on it last year.
Correct. There was one vacancy, and it was filled by Mike Peterson, who's already acting, an acting member. So he was slid into the vacancy position.
Public Utilities Commission, Ted Shaw Council, unless there's another volunteer. I don't see any hands going up. Chris, who's Kurt York, he volunteered to serve on the commission again, and Doug Skelton. Moving on to the Fire District Board, Walt Lauer, Council. We should vote on those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boards. Do we have a motion to accept? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I think we should shut that door, maybe. Thank you. Moving on to city officers and officials. Mayor Pro Tem, Doug Jutman. Doug, do you still want to serve in that position?
Yes.
Thank you. Weed and Tree Inspector. That's evidently a lifetime appointment.
Ted Shaw.
Per statute, yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
You know.
I'll start my first meeting tomorrow. Safety Officer, Phil Etner. Now, we do want to start a safety board. Will that be later in the?
Correct.
Okay. Wastewater Director, Phil Etner. Building Official Inspector, Andrew Sharp, Township and Range. Animal Control Officer, Moose Lake Police Department. Board of Health, the Gateway Clinic Physicians. Emergency Preparedness, myself. Cable Television Public Access Coordinator, Roy Buckowitz. I have a motion to accept those appointments. Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next page, city council committees, municipal liquor store, Doug Jutman and Greg Sarvala. Any changes? Okay. Police protection, Chris Husso. Administrative committee, Chris Husso and myself. Chris. Cable television commission and communication tech committee, myself. Chamber of Commerce, myself and Walt Lauer. Walter, you still, okay. Minnesota Department of Corrections Advisory Committee, myself and Chris Russo. Active Living Coalition, myself and Doug. We have to get the committee going.
We got that.
The City Administration and Department Directors. City Administrator, City Clerk Treasurer, Alyssa Owens, City Administrator. Deputy Clerk Finance Director, Ryan McKeon. Electronic Fund Transaction Designation, Ryan McKeon. Public Works Superintendent, Phil Etner. Chief of Police, Darren Juntman. Municipal Liquor Store Manager, Elaine Henniger. Library Director, Laura Hellwig. Motor Vehicle Deputy Register, Karen Deline. And that's it for committees. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Was there a special statement had to be made on behalf of the deputy clerk treasurer? Okay, it seemed like we had to do something, but,
Declaration every year, I thought, I don't remember what it
excuse me?
was. I thought it was some declaration or something every year, but I don't recall what it was.
I don't either, we'll have to look into that. And if there is, it can be done at,
February meeting. I didn't find the oath, but there was no one that needed to retake the oath at this time, so I wasn't aware.
good. All right, I think that is all the committees and board appointments. All the correspondence is behind that, if anyone has any questions on the communications and letters. And now we can move on then. We have nothing in the committee board meeting minutes that will be in the regular meeting. We have no announcements, so at this time I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn the reorganizational meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we are now adjourned, regular, in the organizational meeting. And the next business will be... This will be the regular meeting, Moose Lake City Council for Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance, so we'll go right into approval of agenda. Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda? Okay, remember, I have a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That brings us into the consent agenda. And the first item is the minutes, regular city council meeting for December 8th, 2021. And B, the financial reports for city accounts payable, December 2021. City finance statements, December 2021. The liquor store profit loss statement for December 2021. Do you have any discussion or questions on the minutes? Okay, remember, I have a motion to accept the minutes for December 8th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to the financial reports, do we have any questions or discussion on the financial reports? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the financial reports?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, public comments. This time is reserved for comments from the public on matters not listed on the agenda. Please keep comments to 3 minutes. Hearing none, we'll move on to departmental reports. Number 4, the police chief, department report for December 2021.
Mayor, members of the council, in your packet you should have the police report for December 2021, totaling 191 calls for service. 40 of those are for extra patrol, 25 traffic stops, 40 community engagements, 7 assists to other agencies, and 76 calls for service, along with 3 medicals. I just want to briefly touch, I think you might be a little bit later, on some of the winter parking. We've gone around and tried to notify a lot of the people by putting some of our ordinance violations on their vehicles to have them move. We're still seeing a lot that aren't moving or trying to shovel around them a little bit, but I'll let you guys address that and come up a little bit later. So if people could just start getting those off so that Phil and his crew can plow. We've had some requests from MnDOT along Sioux Hill as well to have them off of there. So we've made contact with a lot of vehicles and a lot of owners already to get those out of the way. The toy drive this year was a huge success. Sarah Radzak did a great job for us again, putting all that together. The community members, businesses, everybody that donated, great response. So we were able to get those out to a lot of the kids and a lot of stuff to a lot of families. So thanks to everybody that participated and made those donations. Our new squad is up, being built now, getting the equipment on it. They're supposed to be done this week, but I've been informed their doors are closed because of COVID, so I don't know, when it's going to get done. As we suspected, there was going to be a long delay waiting for parts, and they finally got them in, so it was pretty close after the first of the year that we were able to get that done. So we had all of ours, we were just waiting on EATI to get there, so that should be done here in the next week or so. So then we'll get that put in, and we'll just keep the other one as a spare, and I'll just stay in the one that I have. A lot of vehicle prowls lately, so everybody kind of be cautious. They're not people really from our community, which is kind of hard to defend. We've had some as far as the International Falls coming through here. We had another one that came in and took a purse and credit cards and everything from a vehicle that has over 100 convictions on their record for the same thing, and they're still out here doing it. They're not from here. Watching, they went to an ATM, watched the person, followed them, went in and took the stuff, had one at the hospital. We have that person identified, we know who it is, and the vehicle description. Duluth PD and Superior PD are trying to locate him now. Another one we went and interviewed confessed to the other one that we had here in town. So just try to be cautious of not leaving your purse, your wallet, presents, or any type of things laying out in the open, or your doors unlocked. Like I said, we want to think Moose Lake, we don't really have to worry about that, but these aren't people from Moose Lake. They're passing through. So, and this is happening everywhere. It's getting to be a big deal. So they hit us and go, and it's pretty tough to find these people. So just be aware of that. One other thing we got here is we had a donation from Dead on Arms. I just brought it in so you guys can pass around and take a look. It's a less lethal pepper ball gun. It just kind of gives us another option. A lot of things have changed over the last couple of years on how we handle a lot of calls, whether we're backing out of them. Instead of pushing them into a situation, now with this here, it just gives us one more weapon that reaches out pretty far. End up hitting somebody in the chest and then shooting out pepper and hopefully incapacitate them. So we were one of 5 departments that received the donation, so it was nice of Dead on Arms to do that for us. Other than that, I have something that'll come up a little bit later on the agenda that we'll go through, but yeah, things have been busy. A lot of unlocks and just kind of try and deal with some of these stuff. Things are taking some time. We've had to send people up to go interview people in Duluth and different areas, but this county trees, want to have all that wrapped up. So other than that, you guys have any questions for me?
What is the actual ordinance on parking and stuff when there's snow and stuff, and that, both on the state highway and on the street.
You have to be off the street 48 hours after the snowfall.
It's the same thing whether it's a street or whether it's a highway.
Yep, anything that we have in the city. So we've treated Sioux Hill just the same, and we've given all them the same ordinance notices, so.
Just to comment on that, Darren, Phil, and myself will be working on reworking some of our snow removal ordinances, kind of compiling them into one. We have bits and pieces throughout other ordinances, and we really need a complete ordinance that allows all of our departments to be able to do their job and do their job well. So that is something that will be taking place. We just have to meet to continue to construct it. So that is in process currently.
And there are people that ask, well, where can I find this ordinance and stuff?
Correct. So it's super important that we have it solidified, passed, all inclusive in one versus bits and pieces from multiples, so that we can enforce it.
And it's currently on the city's webpage.
Right, I mean, some people have trouble finding it.
Yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot that need to go through and be cleaned up.
There's a lot there, and it's in the different snow removals, whether it be sidewalk, parking, all of that is kind of
It's all
pieced out
mixed up, and
all over.
You get somebody that's 75, 80 years old, and
Yeah.
ask them, or tell them, well, it's on the website, and they say, where the hell's the website?
Right, right.
Right. Yeah, so it'll be get, cleaned up as we go, but, we adopt a lot of the state statute under city ordinance, so we'll have to get all that out, but it's gonna be a work in progress. You probably want to use this, don't you?
Somebody would like to, at times.
All right, anything else for me?
No, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate it, thank you. Please pass the thank you on.
Will do.
Public Works Superintendent, departmental report for December 2021.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, busy month here. Got thrown right into winter snow and ice removal. It's been busy, but it's been good. Yeah, we'll start in the water department here. Water department distributed 4.7 million gallons of drinking water in the month of December. May have mentioned this last meeting, we're looking into a valve exercising program. That's one of the bigger types of maintenance things that we do not do. We have never done. We're kind of looking into something like that. That's not just something we can jump out and go do. Involves a little equipment. It looks like there's some opportunities through some OSHA grants to cover a large portion of that expense, or at least 50% of it. We're looking into that. That'll probably be something I bring to you in March. But that's one thing that'll benefit water, sewer, and everything with valves. So when we have lots of valves, tons of valves. So there'll be more to come on that. To the public and everyone here, I want to just mention our frozen water and sewer line policy, which can be found on our website. I sit here and talk about this every year, about this time of year. Frost depths right now are about 30 inches in the ground. Haven't had any freeze-ups yet, but they are probably coming. They come every year. So I don't like them. My crew doesn't like them. The residents don't like them. If you have questions, please just come talk to us. If you're not sure who to talk to, get a hold of City Hall. They'll get you in touch with me. Sit down with whoever we have to make it so they understand that. Like I said, nobody likes this. So if we can prevent it, that would be awesome. Sewer department collected 10.0 million gallons of wastewater in the month of December. The other thing I have on here is grinder approval, which we'll talk about later. Street department, like I mentioned, snow and ice removal. It's been a few long days, but we're getting through it. This four-man crew thing's really working nice as far as shuttling hours back and forth. Different guys in different pieces of equipment. It's working really, really good. So just a quick equipment update. I was thinking about this when I was plowing one day. You guys have over, well, I came up with 9 different pieces of equipment worth over $20,000 to repair. So I figured I'd just give you an idea where we're sitting with them for hours and mileage. One's a 2020 F350 with 10,000 miles on it, 2018 F350 with 15,000 miles, 2016 F350 with 35,000 miles, 2006 Dodge Ram with 70,000 miles, with all those pickups are attached with Boston plows, so you see them running all over the place. 2000 Sterling dump truck with 62,000 miles on it, 99 Sterling dump truck with 42,000 miles on it, 2017 Cat 249 skid steer with 1,300 hours on it, 2017 Cat backhoe loader with 600 hours on it, and then a 2000 sewer jetter, Sewer Cleaning Company of America is what it's called, and that has 1,200 hours on it. So those are a bigger piece of equipment. Just just wanted to kind of throw that at everyone, you think, you put 20 grand in each one of them, it's a lot of money. So it's very important that we maintain all that. So, everything else here, cemeteries, campground, everything's all buttoned up for the winter, moving right along. Got a bunch of other things coming up here later, but that's about it. Any questions?
Thanks for that.
Yep.
But thank you to the crew also.
Yep.
Thank you.
Can you really?
Under D, excuse me, C, Technology Moose Lake Public Library Department Report for December 2021.
Yes, the library board met this week. They are in the planning process for a lot of programming coming up. They're already looking at opportunities for the coming summer, including a magician and some author signings and presentations, things like that. They're looking to partner with other area libraries for events, so if somebody were to come and perform at the Croquet Library, Laura is coordinating with other area libraries within the Arrowhead system to then be able to get that same activity or person here as well. So they're working hard on that. She's been working on weeding the library. There was a lot of books in there that haven't been, the criteria is 5 to 10 years without being checked out. So when those books have not been utilized in that time frame, they are then pulled out for a book sale. She's been working really hard on that, and she's at the point where she already has enough books for the upcoming book sale in June. So she's kind of maxed out, but really working hard to get the library clean and make room for new material. There'll be some make and takes coming up in January and February that she's been preparing.
Thank you.
And so she'll be posting on the Public Library Facebook page in order to get that information out as new activities and opportunities come available to the library.
Is there still a committee or a group that friends of the library? Are they active? They are?
They're working with the Historical Society for when they take and have their book sale and stuff, because they'll have it inside at the same time that the Historical Society has their unit up there, so that they have it all at one time, because they end up having so much more people coming in for the book sale and stuff. They do so much better up there than they do down here.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks. Anything in technology? I know, Rory, we're hoping you put together a list of things that you need updated, and do you know how that's coming along?
Well, I've got to try to get the guy there with all the snow. I really didn't have any extra time to.
Sure. When you do, it'd be appreciated. We'd like to keep supporting that effort, keep it up to date. Thank you. City Engineer monthly update meeting minutes.
So the meeting minutes are included in the packet. A lot of these items will be touched at a later time, or, with it being winter, a lot of the projects are kind of on hold or in a holding pattern or being wrapped up from the previous year. Some items, or previous season. Some items that I just wanted to highlight, the Trunk Highway 73 Phase 2 of the trail. We've initiated the planning process on that. So looking into different additional funding sources, the particular routing for that second phase of the trail, things of that nature are stuff that we're starting to work through. If anybody has any questions, they can feel free to touch base on that. In addition, we had a 30% design meeting for the 4th Street Reconstruct project. So all of that is going on in the background as far as continuing to make progress on some of those big city projects.
We will have a 60% meeting at, I think it was projected out.
Sometime later this month.
Yeah. So it's moving along quite well.
In addition, we'll touch base on some of the other topics that are on within the minutes later on in the meeting. I think the campground expansion planning process is also in the works. And then the final item I'll touch on in this portion of the meeting is there is a meeting with DOC coming up here on January 18th. We are currently working on the agenda for that, so if anybody's interested as far as knowing what will be discussed at that meeting, I can certainly share that out upon request. But that will be coming up here next week as well.
Any questions by the council? Thank you. Chamber of Commerce updates. I call on Ryan to give us an update. Chamber.
There
Not
wasn't,
yet?
I told him we'd spare him the first meeting. There was a Chamber of Commerce board meeting today. They did announce that they are postponing their annual chamber dinner due to COVID, so there'll be more to come on that. In addition, they are starting the planning process for events coming up in the 2022 calendar year. Some of the items that have, or events that have been established as far as the timeline is concerned would include Ice Bocce that will take place Saturday, February 5th, and the Business Expo that will take place on May 7th at Riverside Arena.
And there'll be a reorganizational meeting happen for them also. They'll be changing of the director and so forth. So they have to go through that process themselves. Other than that, I think that was it. Any questions by the council? Thank you. Nothing under previously discussed businesses at this time. Going on to number 6, new business. A is conditional use permit for 4420 Kenwood Avenue.
Yes, we received a request for a conditional use permit for 4420 North Kenwood Avenue from Teresa Vikander. And she is here. She is currently operating a salon out of her home. She presented in front of the Planning Commission where an opportunity was given just to provide additional information and ask questions. At that meeting, the Planning Commission recommended that we grant the conditional use permit for Teresa and her small business out of her home.
Any questions by the council?
No, I just make a statement that at the planning commission, it was stated that there's only like 2 days of clients coming in, and it's only a few a day, so yeah, that's why we agreed to the conditional use.
In addition, we did not receive any negative correspondence or inquiries regarding the request. We actually had one of Teresa's neighbors respond that they hope that her conditional use permit gets granted.
So then, do we have a motion to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, it's granted. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you can depart if you wish.
Thanks, guys, so much.
Moving on to 6B, 2021 Sanitary Sewer Lining Project, pay application number 4 to Instu-Form Technologies USA LLC.
Yes, so this is the final pay application to In Situ Form. The amount due for this application is $5,741.62.
Questions by the council and or approval?
Make a motion to approve the application form.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carried. Under C, 2021 Sanitary Sewer Lining Project Acceptance.
So within the packet, there was a letter. The 2021 sewer lining project is completed. They've provided all the necessary documentation to us, and this is just the final acceptance of the project.
Have a motion? Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And just a quick discussion with Phil. Do you have any idea where we're at on these lining projects for the last 2 years? You see, hard to tell if positive, I know, but maybe just a quick update.
So yeah, we were given an update by Matt Wolf, our city engineer. Was it in November or December at the Windermere Combined meeting? You weren't at that? Okay, sorry, I thought you were.
No, I went to one of them. That was the last
He
one.
gave a really good presentation as to what we're seeing and the path we think we're on. However, the MPCA looks at it on a 5-year rolling average. So we still have 4 other years of data on there without accurate results from lining, because we didn't have any lining done then. So now that year will get replaced with this next coming year, which will now have 2 lining projects, or approximately 1,400, 1,500 feet on there. So we'll constantly see that number go down. From a day-to-day standpoint, it's looking really good. For an example, we typically discharge at the ponds in the fall 3 times. This year we discharged once.
So that's huge.
34 million gallons of discharge. 34 to 38. So I can't tell you how good, but it is definitely good.
Very good.
Yeah, and SCH would be the ones to tell us just exactly how good.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, thank you. Anyone questions by the council? Oh, thanks. So that was accepted. We're moving on to D, City Moose Lake Standard Driveway Detail. Oh, sorry,
What
Greg,
the
yes,
question
sir.
would be then is what have we got planned on doing from this date on?
We hope to continue with that same process.
I mean, you know, do we have, for this next year, do we plan on having how many feet of sewer to be lined?
Stay tuned, Greg.
Right now, we have 100,000 correctly put in the budget, but there's an opportunity for possibly more.
Yes, and we'll talk about that at tonight's meeting.
That's what I think.
Yeah. That will be coming up.
Maybe we'll keep them at a podium.
Well, I think I gotta be up here for this next
He
one. I
does.
was asked to be.
Yep,
Yeah.
he's got another one.
This is the City Moose Lake Standard Driveway Detail.
Yes, so throughout the 4th Street reconstruct, and honestly throughout some of the construction down on John Brown Drive, every case is a little different. We look back in our records, the city has no detail for a driveway accepted of any kind. So Greg, right now you can go put a driveway in that doesn't meet any kind of spec, and there's nothing the city can do to tell you no. Perfect examples, we have 2 driveway cuts to do on 4th Street that we both looked at. There's a driveway there over a curb and sidewalk, but it's not a cut, it's not a ped ramp, it's not ADA approved, but it's there and it's in place, and we now have to replace that. I would be my recommendation that we approve these 3 details tonight. There is 3, right? Yeah. Yes. As basically our baseline, so what we typically like to see. Because remember, this does extend into our right of way, so we do have jurisdiction as far as what you can put, what you can't put in our right of way. These were some of the more basic ones. They're not super high end, they're what you guys see on a daily basis. 3D cut and dry, pretty simple.
So maybe explain what that would be, if, like before the sidewalk and then after, just so everybody has a good understanding of it.
Yep, so there's 3 details shown here. The first one I'm looking at is the residential concrete driveway with sidewalk adjacent to the curb. So that's where you're in a curb and gutter roadway section. You have sidewalk running right behind that curb. Standardizing a 12-foot minimum driveway width, which allows ample room for a car to get in and out, and up to 26 feet. If you get bigger than that, typically is just not allowed in most communities, unless it's a commercial thing where it might be a variance or whatnot. But this one allows for, because that sidewalk is tied to the curb, that those curb cuts are made at a certain slope to meet ADA requirements. So when pedestrians are traveling on that sidewalk, you're not coming to it and then dropping down and then coming back up at that driveway. It allows a little bit gentler of a slope to do so. And then the second one here is residential concrete driveway apron with no sidewalk. So just trying to put some sort of standard in place for when you don't have sidewalk, but you need a driveway. If there's curb and gutter, you would typically want to add a concrete apron on the backside of it to help protect your curb and gutter, so there's no rutting or undermining or anything like that. It helps protect your street. And so we typically go with a 3-foot minimum depth on that of concrete and then matching whatever the homeowner has on the backside. And then the third one is what we have on 4th Street, which is there's a boulevard between the road and the sidewalk, and putting in a standard concrete apron to help protect again that curb and gutter on the backside, and then running your concrete sidewalk through that driveway at an ADA compliant slope. And just standardizing, having concrete in between the sidewalk and the roadway on all of those, and then matching whatever the homeowner has on the backside. So whether they want to put gravel, concrete, or bituminous driveway from the sidewalk back to their house, it's up to them. And standardizing what's in the city right away, so it's consistent and maintainable.
Any questions by the council? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the Moose Lake City standard driveway detail?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to 6E, American Rescue Plan Act Fund Allocation. And this is what you were asking about. Administrator?
Yes, so the city of Moose Lake will receive $300,000 as per the American Rescue Plan Act. The American Rescue Plan Act defines a few eligible uses for the funding. The eligible use categories are pretty strict. So we've been educating ourselves through training opportunities, having meetings with our auditors, and even correspondence with our attorneys. So the eligible use categories include broadband improvements, and then water and sewer infrastructure improvements. So with that, we took a look at different ways that the city of Moose Lake could allocate these funds in the coming year. These funds are not part of the current budget, so this is outside of that. As far as water and sewer infrastructure opportunities, we have come up with 2 scenarios. The first would be utilizing the $300,000 within the 4th Street Reconstruct project, and those funds would be allocated to those specific items. In doing so, we developed actually SEH has developed for us a cost breakdown of what those items would cost the city of Moose Lake within that 4th Street Reconstruct project, so that was included in the packet. Just to give you an idea of per line item, what those costs will be with that project. The second opportunity that we've discussed, which would be my recommendation, is utilizing the $300,000 for a sewer lining project.
With that one, this would be an opportunity for us to get a large amount of I&I completed, which is probably one of our largest problems, which would help alleviate, possibly our shortages at the pond, our capacity. And there's another reason to me why we should do this. If you go with 4th Street, every single item, spread out would have to have an individual report submission for it, and I think first one has to be done the end of this month.
January, correct.
And then you have to keep an update on all of them, whereas if we do one, which is the lining, put that money all into lining, keep that $100,000 where it is, use that $300,000 to line as much as we possibly can, then it's just one item report and planning and the watch of the whole thing, reporting and whatever. To me, that makes more sense. And that's why we totally agreed on requesting that the council accepted that as our direction to go with it.
As you digest this information, as Ted has mentioned, the reporting criteria is very strict, and it's changing constantly. And so the federal guidelines for what you need to report and how are rigid enough that a singular project with one line item versus pulling the cost, extracting that out of the 4th Street Reconstruct project would be cleaner for the city. It would take less city resources in order to accomplish the reporting aspect of it. And then, we could be allocating resources elsewhere and not just, trying to dive into the federal reporting for the American Rescue Plan Act funds. So
We could also mention about I'm doing the study on water and.
yes, so with this, we did have $100,000 allocated for a sewer lining project in 2022. So we've come across some additional opportunities that we could utilize those funds within the sewer department. So I'm gonna have Tyler come up and show us a electronic mapping system that is something that I will be recommending that we do with some of the remaining funds for the $100,000 that was previously budgeted for a lining project.
I could state a little bit of history also. We did start a mapping with the last engineering group, but when we transitioned to a new, and this happens with a lot of things, so you lose some of that data if you're not protected correctly or you don't plan correctly. So we have some of that data available from the past attempts at mapping this, but it was not completed, and it was, I don't think, is easily accessible or manipulated. But there's a lot of things that go into a mapping. So now we have an opportunity to finish this mapping in a different process and yet save all the data that we did in the past. And I'll let Tyler go from there, just to give you a little history. And I think we started this back with LHB, that's how long ago it was. We're probably going back 12 years or more. But please, Tyler.
Thank you. Yep, so what we're talking about, and this was brought up a couple monthly meetings ago with our engineering group, is setting up a GIS system for the city of Moose Lake. It's a web-based geographic information system, that's what GIS stands for. It uses Esri GIS mapping software, which is worldwide used GIS software, so it's like the Microsoft of GIS. It's used to house city information on infrastructure and data, and it's a good tool for the city to keep track of things. So I just want to touch base on a few things with it before I show you an example. Some of the benefits include record keeping. Basically, whatever you want to put into this thing is what you can get with it. So you can put city sanitary sewer information, water information, storm sewer information, parcel data, zoning information, handwritten notes that Phil has, you can attach them into the system, inspection sheets, record plans, the list goes on. But basically, whatever the city comes up to put in the system, you can use that to build it and then access it later. One of the other benefits to this system is it's a good staff resource for public works. One of the main reasons that I think Phil would like it is for Gopher State phone calls. When a ticket is called in for a locate, the city has to respond and locate underground facilities. With this system, it's all web-based, so he can access it from his phone, or computer, or tablet. He can go out on site, he can see where his pipes are underground, he can click on them, see the size, the type. He can click on them, and if we go as far as attaching inspections or whatnot, he can bring those right up on his phone, read them, and go from there to mark out utilities. It's a lot easier than sitting in his office looking up old maps, bringing them out in the field, looking at them in his truck, and trying to find that stuff out in the field based on old maps. So it's just a very useful tool for him and his crews. Office staff. So Elissa's mentioned zoning to us. It'd be a nice useful tool to look at zoning easily. If the city goes this route, I would recommend that the city and city council takes a look at the zoning maps and makes any adjustments you want to make before we would implement that into the system. But it's a useful tool for looking at that. Parcel data that we can pull from the county. There's aerials, imagery and everything that you can look at on this. From a planning and design standpoint, it's a useful tool for quick looking at, okay, we want to do some improvements over here on this side of town. What do we have for infrastructure there? Bring it up on a map, quick 1 minute talks, look at it on a computer. It's easy to use. You can access it from basically anywhere as long as you got a signal. There's no additional need for city to purchase hardware or software to run this. You just simply run it through the Esri system and then use your web address and access account to access it.
And it stays with the city if engineer groups change. It doesn't disappear.
Correct.
I got a question. So is there a monthly charge for maintaining this system?
Yeah, so I'll get to the costs in just a second. I'll just wrap this part up. So to what Ted said, it's completely expandable and transferable. So like I said, as much as you want to put into the system is what you're going to get out of it. The more you put in, the more useful it's probably going to be. It easily transfers. So if you get new administration, new public works, you would change your user accounts through Esri for their access. And if, say, you got rid of SEH as your engineer, we don't house it, Esri does. So you would then use your new city engineer to access the account and edit it as needed. So then, as part of the costs, so what we would recommend is budgeting $50,000 for this project. It's going to get you a very nice product. We recently did this in Proctor about a year ago, and I think theirs was around $20,000. And it gets on the basics, but it includes initial setup with pulling in county data, setting up the software, pulling in whatever utility information Phil already has, putting it in the software, and then there's additional upfront survey work that could be done. So looking at, the good news is that the previous administration and engineers had a little foresight, like Ted was mentioning, about doing this as a long-term goal. And so we have some of the data that they passed along, which includes sanitary, water, and storm sewer information. Now, we need to do some checking to make sure some of this is accurate, but from a first glance, it looks pretty decent. So we can utilize that information already and plug it into the system and then build off of it. So there might be additional manholes or valves or hydrants that Phil knows aren't on that system that we can go out and survey and add them into the system. The other portion is with the locating. He's got to locate out services, so curb stops, sanitary services, which he might have old televising records that tell him where services are, but if we can go out when Phil is locating these and then follow him with our survey crew, pick up these locations, put them in the system, now he has them, he doesn't have to recreate the wheel every time he goes out there. So we typically set this thing up front, and then we recommend to the city that you plan for some amount of budgeting each year for updates, any changes that are made, so we can get those into the system. And then there is annual fees associated to it. So there's, I believe it's $1,500 annual subscription with Esri for the city. And then for each user, so typically it'd be Elissa, Phil, and if anybody else needs access to it, it'd be $100 per person for read-only access. Typically, we recommend that the editing capabilities stay with us, just because if Phil goes in there, edits something by accident, we have no way of tracking that. And so then, sorry, excuse me. So then for SEH to administer the account, it'd be a $500 administration fee to us, that would get paid to us to administer it through Esri. Otherwise, editing capabilities for Elissa would be $350 or $400 annually.
So other departments do have a line item for computers and software within the annual budget. So that is something that Phil also has within his departments as well. So we would be looking at divvying out that $1,500 software fee throughout the relevant departments that were impacted by the GIS system in order to absorb that cost. And that's something that we already do have budgeted that we don't utilize in the fullest. So that is something that we've already looked at. And just to provide a tiny bit more background, how this came about is we were trying to determine if we would recommend a $400,000 lining project with the $100,000 that was already earmarked, or if we would utilize the $300,000 in the ARPA funds and then reallocate the $100,000 that we've already budgeted for capital within the sewer department to opportunities that we might not otherwise have the funding to be able to do. And when in discussion with Phil, when we saw some of the handwritten drawings and maps that are falling apart and things of that nature in the Public Works Department, we are not adequately equipped to be able to give, there are records that are very old and outdated and not complete. So this would be an opportunity for us to be able to just essentially give the city the planning ability and workability with some of this mapping that we don't have in its entirety at the time. So then we started investigating this and we determined that some of this has already been done. Those records may be incomplete and we'll verify the accuracy, but it would be an opportunity to kind of wrap up some of those old projects and utilize that $100,000 that we budgeted for capital within that department to get some of this done that we might not be able to do otherwise. So that's where this is coming from.
Well, this has been a long-term goal, started many years ago, just has never been completed. And it would have been invaluable during that 2012 flood because the weeks and months of researching all this different data would have been all there in this program. And it had to be done by hand and going through prints and a lot of the old records that were done by memory by past people in the street department. And you could just tell this should have been done years and years ago. And there were good efforts made at the time, but just never was completed. And I think every administrator in the past has brought this up. We need to finish this and complete it. And it just never has been done. And some of it is cost. But this is kind of like a golden opportunity. We got this $300,000 that we were not planning for. So this opens up an avenue with some of the money we do have earmarked for infrastructure. So it's just trying to do a smart way of managing what we do have and the opportunity that we have received.
Yeah, Tyler's going to show us what the GIS mapping system looks like from an operating standpoint.
So as he gets set up here, I just want to touch on a couple things. Real basic, simple things here, right? So we're doing 4th Street. We're in the middle of the 4th Street Reconstruct project, right? In order for them to do their design for this, we have to go out, they have to call locate and we have to go out and mark the street, right? 2 blocks of street, it took 2 guys 6 hours to do that. They will have to do that at least 3 more times before the project's done. And there's no way to streamline that. It is physically get the maps out, take them apart, go through, find everything. And there's no, that is as streamlined as it possibly gets. Another situation, sewer department wise, right? So 2 of the League of Minnesota cities We are supposed to clean every section of pipe in town once every 4 years, okay? The way you prove that is by doing a manhole inspection. I learned this the hard way because I didn't realize this is how this had to be. I learned this the hard way. We started putting this sewer cleaning maintenance program in place when we bought the jetter. Some of you are familiar with I come up here and yak about how much we get cleaned, all that stuff. With this program, every year we can upload all those files. Yep, we were in manhole 27, which is right down here. This summer, this time, this date, here was the operator. I print that off to our insurance company. As soon as that gets to their desk, we are clear, completely clear. As soon as I learned the hard way that we pay for backups that way, our insurance company does, I learned that that piece of paper is such a wonderful tool for the city. It's such a huge form of protection, it's ridiculous. This can all get upgraded every year into this. If you want to zoom in to that northeast corner, which we didn't realize we had mapped,
Oh,
I shouldn't say-
this is Proctor.
oh,
This is
I'm
an
sorry,
example.
that's right, I'm
We don't
sorry.
have your setup.
Sorry, so I think this was in 17 or 18, the gas company came in, they ran all new underground service lines, mains, the whole works. During some of the data collection with Bolton and Mink, our previous engineer, we were able to jump on board. We had to locate every service, every curb stop, every water service, every sewer service, every main, every manhole, everything. And we have captured that data. It is recorded, you have seen that. That is almost, I'm not gonna call it a fourth of town, but I'm gonna say it's more than a third. Because I think there's 13 or 14 blocks. Right now, that data is completely useless to me. It's recorded somewhere and it's stored somewhere, but I can't see it. So just another thing I wanna throw out there. Go ahead.
So this is what we did for Proctor about a year ago. They were at the same stage. They had existing maps, things like that. They gave all of that to us. Our GIS group brought it into GIS, started an account for them, and now there's their city administrator, their finance director, I think, and then a couple of their public works people have access to this. So if you've ever been on the county GIS website, it's basically the same operation because they go through Esri as well. But it's got layer tools so you can turn things on and off. I can turn off parcel data, turn it on, I can put an image in the background. And then you zoom in, you see all these lines in here. We have other layers for water information, storm information, sanitary information. So if I zoom into an intersection here and say Phil is looking for, well, he's not here now, but he's looking for a manhole inspection for insurance or whatever it be. He can go in, he can click on this manhole that he was at. It gives you what the manhole number is according to his inventory. It gives you elevation data if you want to collect that. It has the last time it was inspected. You could put in here who it was inspected by. It has information on the depth. It has information on the type of structure. It has condition ratings, which you can update from year to year. And then it tells you all about the pipes that are connected to it. So it's very, very useful information. If there was, they don't have, in Proctor, they didn't go as far as adding in service locations and information. But if you were to do that, then you would see a little service symbol at your water and your sanitary at each building location. And you could click on that. And I know Phil has a big binder in his office that has measurement ties to where all of these water shutoffs are. So it might be 30 feet from this building corner and 20 feet from this sign. When he goes in here and he clicks on this service, he can scroll to the bottom and there would be an attachment. And we could attach his notes of those measurement ties. So when he's out in the field looking at his phone, he can zoom in, click on that, see, oh, okay, I gotta measure 30 feet here, 20 feet here, it's right here, and then he finds it. Versus bringing a big map and all of his binder notes and trying to find it out that way. It's just a very easy access, all in the palm of your hand, information storage system. But like I said, we could upload a zoning map on here as a background, and Alyssa could use that or look at all the parcel data This one pulls right from the county website for parcel data. It's just very nice, easy, usable tool for anybody who has access to it. And if anybody wants to look at this closer after the meeting, I'd be willing to show you too.
Any questions initially?
Thank you.
So in addition to this, I know Tyler had mentioned this would be roughly around $50,000. In addition to this, I know I had made a recommendation at the final budget presentation meeting as well to do a sewer rate study. So there would be enough monies that we've earmarked for capital in order to accomplish this and do a sewer rate study in 2022 as well.
So that 100,000 that we had earmarked could be utilized in these two items, and there may even be a little bit left. I mean, we may not use the whole 50,000, but it's recommended to put that in to get a full usable project or usable program and capture all this old data that we have. And some of those prints go back 60, 70 years, and they're probably at the end of their life. There's so much tape on them. You should really, it needs to be all captured before it is gone. It just is an opportunity for us. Yes, sir.
Who puts the information that Phil has now into the program?
So that would be SEH. We would put a proposal together, all the items that we are going to include and upgrade into the system, and then we work with Phil to go through all of his notes that he wants to get in there, and we get them in there, and then we make sure, have him review it to make sure that it's correct in what he wants. But our GIS group does all that uploading and transfer.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if we go for this, how long would it take to put the program all together and workable? 6 months or less?
I would guess we could probably get it within 6 months. Now granted, if there's additional data that wants to be collected in the field, you have to take that into account, so we'd go out and survey curb stops and things like that, and then you'd have to upload those.
In other words, it should be done by Christmas.
Be a nice Christmas present for Phil.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that because realistically, once you start going through and finding out, okay, you missed 10 stops. I mean, you go around here when Phil started finding manholes, he finds out that he's got 50 more manholes than he figured he had in the beginning.
Yep. And so that's part of what we recommend to the city for planning for annual budget, is to include some amount of dollars in there for updates that Phil finds where he found a valve that he didn't know of or whatnot, and then we can get that maybe biannually or annually. We go into the program and make those updates. Or say 4th Street gets done, we take the record information from 4th Street at the end of the project and upload it in that system. So it's constant. It's supposed to be a system that's continually updated with more and more information, more accurate information.
I mean, that's just like we found out in this last week or so that I do have plastic for my house now out to the middle of the street where it should have been something else, because it had been worked sometime or other between from the time the house was built and whatnot.
Correct.
So thank God I didn't have Orangeburg out there, because otherwise we would have been digging up this come May.
Right.
They only had to auger the wood out of it.
So what we're looking for today, the reporting guidelines for the American Rescue Plan Act funds start at the end of January here. So we have a January 30th deadline for reporting. So what we're looking for is just consensus to continue, consensus on how to utilize the American Rescue Plan Act funds, and then consensus to continue to investigate some of these other opportunities, and then bring forward more definitive numbers and proposals and quotes for you on these other rate study and the GIS mapping system as well.
Definitely.
I got one more question on costs. So it'd be we'd set aside $50,000 for the first year, and then after that, the years after that, we would pay up $1,500 annually, and then $100 per person for access, and then pay also for future updates.
Correct. So we would be budgeting the $1,500 for the software, and Phil does have a line item for computers and softwares already. So we would be splitting that between the different departments that are relevant. And so that is kind of a cost that can be absorbed within the current budget. The $100 seats we would allocate and decide and bring to council how many we'd like to have for the city. So that would be anywhere from $100 to $300 per year for those. And then updates could be something that we decide to do, whether it be annually or biannually, and then have a budget amount for those as well. So maybe it's $1,500 every 2 years in updates, or, you know, $2,000 every biannually for updates.
And you would be doing updates, obviously, then after each road construction project then?
Absolutely.
And it could be also any development. I mean, all that data also would have to be keep that all up to date. And a lot of things through the years have not been updated, which Phil has found out in the last couple of years. And this is a way of capturing that almost immediately and not getting lost or mixed up or things happen. I think to me, a motion on the use of that rescue plan fund would be in order, the $300,000, to use it, if the council agrees to use it for lining this coming year. And I guess that would be, my first ask. And I'll ask that, any discussion on that in our motion?
I'll make a motion to use the $300,000 from that act for sewer line for 2022.
Have a second?
I'd second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then I guess consensus on continuing to look at this GSI mapping and also doing the sewer and water check for this coming year. We were thinking of, or just sewer.
For the rate study?
Rate study, it's water, right?
We have the water done. It's
Okay,
sewer.
so it would be just sewer.
Correct.
And that could go anywhere up to 15 to 20,000?
We were told 15 to 20,000.
So there would be some money left of that 100,000. And we may not spend all of the 50,000 on the GSI map, and we don't know if that'll all be utilized. So there will be some left of that monies for future use also.
I would just say it's critical that we use, that we get this GIS mapping going. The city of Marne at one point had a superintendent that had them all on cards and basically used that as a bargaining chip and said, if I go, all your mapping goes. We don't know who's going to be here, we don't know if we're going to have a fire. All that would be lost. And if you think it's expensive now, $50,000, I don't even know what the cost would be if you try to do it without the records that we have, but it would be quite a bit more money. So we have an opportunity, and we need to move from the 80s into 2022.
Very good.
Thanks for smiling, Walt.
Appreciate that, thank you. And Greg, consensus, move ahead. Chris? Well,
Yes.
great, thank you very much. So we have consensus and we'll add with us. Thank you. All right, moving on to F, this is 6F. Moose Lake Brewing Company temporary off-sale liquor license.
Yes, you'll see two applications within the packet. One is for the ice bocce event, and the other is for a ice fishing tournament that the Moose Lake Brewing Company is looking to have in the coming months.
Have any questions or a motion to accept?
I'll make that motion to accept.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 6G, 2022 tobacco license, Edwards Oil Incorporated.
So you've already approved the tobacco licenses for 2022. This was an additional one that came in based on an upcoming acquisition. So this will be taking place of one of the other tobacco licenses that has been issued, and it looks like this will come into effect possibly in March.
Any questions and/or motion?
Where is Edwards Oil?
So they are looking to acquire the current Minute Mart location.
Okay.
So with the new acquisition, they need the tobacco license. They need to reapply for one for themselves.
Motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 6H, 2022 City Moose Lake fee schedule.
So within the packet, we included the 2022 fee schedule. I did highlight some adjustments that were made to the 2021 fee schedule. Those would include a $5 daily rate camping fee increase for the water and electric sites and the lakeside sites. In addition, the tenting sites went up $5 as well. And then the other item that's different from years past would be the open and close traditional funeral fee. It was $6.50, and through some analysis, we were not covering our cost. So it's been estimated that a $775 fee would cover our cost only. In addition, with the cremation, after a year under our belt, we did an analysis, and from, I believe it was $200 up to $300, and that $300 would cover our cost again. So,
Any questions by the council? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the fee schedule for 2022?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 6I, bridge grinder quotes. Bill?
Okay, you guys may or may not remember, we did budget to replace the grinder at the bridge lift station. This year, out of the sewer department, we have two quotes in front of you here, one from Minnesota Pump Works, one from Wisconsin Pump Works, both for the same Vogel sand grinder. Will fit right in the same channel, should be pretty streamlined in and out. You do this part, this is the part you do.
yes, so just to kind of piggyback, this was a budgeted item for 2022. We decided to move on these, not knowing how long it might take to actually get our hands on some of this equipment. So the first quote from Wisconsin Pump Works is for $42,131.25. The second quote from Minnesota Pump Works is $40,797.50.
How much was budgeted?
We actually over budgeted for this one.
60-ish or?
I don't think so, it was under 50.
It was.
It was a couple grand over what we're asking for.
Okay.
Correct. It was within the $45,000 to $50,000
Oh,
range.
okay.
Any questions under motion?
Okay, do you want to go with Minnesota since it's cheaper? Make a motion to go with Minnesota Pump Works on their quote at $40,797.50.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And I know that some of these supplies are kind of hard to get.
They are, yep.
Moving on to 6J, mower quotes. Another budgeted item. Phil? you wanna
Sure,
start?
yeah, I'll start it, sure. So we, in front of you, we budgeted for a new mower this year as well. I don't don't know where that was budgeted to, which one. Either Public Works or sewer, maybe, Public Works. Okay, perfect. Did a little shopping around this time, I got 3 estimates for you guys. One from Duluth Sport, it's all the same machine. The only thing I wanna call out here, the Duluth Sport one is complete. Moose Lake Implement is complete. The next one below that, Midwest Machinery of Aiken, they could not spec this machine out exactly how we tried to buy them. We tried to buy them with a heavier duty suspension kit on them. We had one frame break on one machine probably 5 years ago. Put these suspension kits on there, never had an issue since. So from now on, I just kind of start, this is our baseline, this is what we go with because we don't have issues with them. With that Z-Glide suspension, $1,719 gives you a total of $14,674 for that total machine. So did do a little extra shopping here, which was I think that's fair. I think that's what we need to do to be responsible with city dollars. And these are the 3 options in front of you.
These all come in under budget from what was budgeted. The Moose Lake Implement quote is for $14,450, and the Duluth Lawn and Sport quote is for $14,700.
So Will's quote is the Moose Lake Implement.
Correct.
Okay. Council, any discussion in our motion?
I'd make a motion that we accept the bid for Moose Lake Implement for $14,450.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 6K, Moose Lake Police Department, Police Investigator position.
Kind of wanted to review this position with you guys here for several different reasons. One, I think most of you know that recruitment kind of everywhere is getting harder and harder and harder, and we've had several of our people recruited. One we almost lost for $13 more an hour to go there, but decided to stay with us. And part of it, I think one of the reasons we lost some people in the past is there's not a lot of advancement for any of our people here. Currently, our night shift is getting a $1 an hour shift differential. Our daytime people that are pretty much having to do the investigations because we can't really, the night guys can't come out and do it, or we're going to pay them overtime to have to come and do it, so it kind of gets dumped off on them. So bringing this position, which you've already had in the past, back is going to give us some kind of accountability. To think that we could feasibly train all of our people in the technology and the training that you need to have for some of these, because we've been farming some of this out to these other departments and are not going to continue to do it for us anymore. So we're going to have to get somebody up to speed, whether we're dumping phones, there's a Celebrate program, a lot of things. We've had a lot of cases going over the last year that some of our people are getting educated enough on to move, but still need more training in it. So we're kind of getting forced that we need to kind of do something. So it kind of, these are just kind of some talking points. Like I said, the accountability piece between our night shift and day shift. Somebody calls in and leaves a message on the phone, the night guy goes, hey, I thought the day guy was taking care of it, or when did it come in? I didn't see it. So again, the county attorney's office is going to say, hey, we need follow up on this. You need to go do an interview. Just this week, we were interviewing people in the St. Louis County Jail, down in Pine County, and different places just from some of these other thefts that have occurred. So we have to get out. We have to do some of those things. And again, it is cheaper for us to implement this position back in. It's not an extra position, it's just added duties to the position that's already going. So one of our day guys, it would be a daytime position, would be, and what I'm looking at and asking for is like $1.50 an hour for that position. They're still going to have their same rotation, there's no specialty position, but they're going to have that responsibility of following up on investigations with what the night guys can't do, because they can still go out and cover a lot of things and get it done with a few things before it gets too late. But there's been a lot of times, things are popping up that they can't do, or we're going to pay them time to have to come in and do because it's happened, during their shift. Let's see here. I think I hit most of that. Some of the notes that I had. It's just kind of one of those things. I know we had it before. I know when I first started here, and before I got here, there was a full-time clerical, sergeant, an investigator, and the chief, and it's been dropped down quite a bit. And part of when I came is, we'll see what we can get by with. I'm not looking to try to re-add the sergeant position back. I've absorbed those duties. But I think there's a lot, and I think it goes well for how the public are gonna view us on how well we handle these cases. So when we're looking at some of that credibility and professionalism, I think it's a need that we move back to that direction. And again, just because of the whole technology and equipment, it isn't impossible to try to get, I think, all of our people through that. It's hard enough just to get people to training. Now we've been dealing with COVID. We've had several people out with that. So just getting these things through. So kind of wanted to bring that up. I would ask the council to, move forward and approve that position. I don't know if Alyssa had any more that she wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's important, these activities are already being done by staff. I think it's important that they're recognized for the duties that they're already doing and that they're compensated properly for them. As Darren mentioned, retainage is a huge deal. And I think these investigatory duties are important, and it deserves a title and it deserves some additional compensation as well.
Like I said, the night guys are already getting it, and really at the daytime people, it's nothing against what's going on at night, but you've got a lot going on a lot of days. Today, 2 of us were running all day long, so it's just, I think we've hit that point, and that's not something we could look at later. I just think would be a good move, and like Alyssa said, I think it's a good thing to do to our employees, and retention is a big thing. It's going to cost us more to keep training new people, and if we get somebody that's loyal and wants to stay, I think it would be a good move.
Open it up for discussion with the council.
I guess I feel as much as the departments are being scrutinized on their work, we really need to have somebody that's solely focused on that and is trained and.
Appreciate your efforts too on absorbing that sergeant's position, and I know our secretary is still part-time, and we dropped that down from full-time to part-time, so I'm in favor of this also for the council.
And that's been working. I've talked with Sarah in those areas that we can cut. I've said from the beginning, I'm not going to come ask you for something I don't think we need. So we try to get by. I've been here now, I think, long enough to see kind of where we need to put these things in place. And I just think, like Chris said too, it's this day and age, even if you're not getting one little thing done, you're going to hear from the county attorney's office that, hey, somebody needs to get out, do this, and yeah, we definitely need it.
By you absorbing the sergeant position, that was a $2,000 a year thing. This would basically cost us $1,000, by $1,000 more than what they're currently.
I'm thinking with the overtime, we're probably
Just that.
Just that.
we're probably going to be
Yeah.
even, or even
You're
save
saving money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the city of Moose Lake, seriously, when Jamie Chalmers left, I mean, he's one of the best investigators I've ever worked with. And the city lost a lot when he left. So.
Right, and you hear that from the other guys too now that, geez, he knew how to do this, he knew how to do this, he need, warrants, he could, and we need to get somebody back to that piece, and I think the public deserves that too.
So any other questions and or motion by the council?
Go for it,
We making a motion?
as a motion.
Right.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further questions? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, I
Thank you,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you.
I've got any other answers.
Moving on to L, City Superintendent position. This is something that I wanted on the agenda, so I'll talk about it. We have a Public Works Superintendent, but I want to change that to a City Superintendent position. We added a lot of responsibility to that one position without doing a desktop study on what the effect was in the budget and so forth. And it moved fast and we agreed to do it, but to me, I don't think we considered the complications of it. So I would like to do a desktop study with Alyssa and Ryan and the department on what has worked, what we've done budget-wise. And I want to look at city superintendent. Chris, you probably remember this going way back, something that David wanted to do to create a city superintendent position. And it's not only what's been, right now, you got the parks, cemeteries, street department, which includes the sewer, water. To me, the city superintendent position that was being looked at was over all the city departments. And it comes more into a management position along with doing the duties that you're doing now, because you have expertise at it. And I'd like to look at that again, and it's been brought up through the years with each city administrator, but we never moved ahead with it. It's kind of like the GSA thing. We looked at it, actually in the last couple of years, it actually has become a city superintendent position without giving the person the title. I'd also like to have this person be the point of contact with the water and light. In other words, the person who is the city maintenance manager over there work with our superintendent on their projects and on what they're proposing, kind of like as an oversight, because we don't have that oversight right now. And they may not have the expertise of it, but they have the experience of working with projects. And there's questions that could be asked and maybe worked through before it comes to the point where there's problems. And I'm not asking that we do it now. I want to do a desktop study to see where that is. And when that's done, I'd like to have it presented to the personnel committee. We meet and go over it, and then present it to the council on action. So I'm looking for, do you want to have any more? There's one other thing that I want to state on it before I'll turn it over to Alyssa. Through the years now, I've worked with 5 different city administrators. And not that Alyssa's planning to leave, I hope not for many years to come. But when they do leave, there's a big gap that is lost. Even somebody has to come in and learn real quick and respond to things very quick. And I think this is what David was getting at. If we have that position, which he was used to working with, you have somebody that can help fill the gap, because if Alyssa left, Ryan would have to step up real quick and learn real fast. But if you have somebody that is in that position that has been working with all the departments and the projects and with the budget, you have some more tools to use and help that transition and more stable environment for the city. That's, to me, is important. So, Alyssa?
Yeah, I think this is an opportunity to formally identify a role that's already being done. I think this is an opportunity to provide additional oversight in areas that we don't currently have it. So I think it's a really good move. I think it's just the next step in the city's growth and structure and organization process, and I think it's really important that we at least take a look at it. And I'm most certainly in favor of this.
So if I have consensus by the council, they would start looking at it immediately and report at the next, we would meet, of course, Chris, and as personnel committee, and either give suggestions or nay, it's not going to work, or move it on to the council for the next month. And then the council could look at it, and usually, to me, I would want the council to take another month to digest it and come back with questions or concerns, and then work that way. To me, it doesn't have to be something absolutely immediate, but I think we need to do a study and present it and work towards that idea, I think. That's just my recommendation to the council. So I'm asking for consensus. Greg? Doug?
Yes.
Chris? Walt?
Yes.
I say yes to it, and thank you, Greg. So then we have consensus to move ahead, a majority consensus, and I understand. So if you three could start the process, I'd appreciate it. And it may be part of the part is the power, water,
We're not big enough.
and I thought maybe you would not want that portion of the power plant and stuff. But it is not a decision-making for them, it's just to help with decision-making. And it would be up to them to do the interfacing. And I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
The city's not big enough.
And and I don't see it as a big change in adding a dollar amount. We already have a part-time person in the street department. There's 2 full-time, and then there's a part-time that we're using for plowing, and we do need a mower because Al retired, which we'll be looking at sometime. So I don't even see the staffing changing there at all. But that'll come. I think the ideas need to be looked at, and
Currently, the Public Works Department is overseeing the recycling shed staff, the water, sewer, streets, cemetery, parks, campground. There's a lot there that's more than just Public Works. So really identifying if we're going to ask the Public Works Superintendent to oversee all those departments, and another one that I see fitting under that umbrella would be the arena. If we're going to ask that, then it is more than a Public Works Superintendent position. So we just need to make sure that we identify that, if that's,
you're talking about a city
correct,
superintendent, not a utilities.
correct.
Thank you. So it sounds like we have consensus. If you three would please sit down and work on it, I'd appreciate that. And then Chris, when they're done, we'll schedule a meeting. Moving on to 6M, Safety Committee Administrator.
Yes, so in our meetings with Troy Walsh from the League of Minnesota Cities, we were advised that we are required to establish a safety committee. Currently, our Public Works Superintendent, Phil, is our safety officer, so he will be heading the committee. In addition, myself and Darren and Ted will be on the committee, and I guess I'm asking if there's any additional council members that would like to be a part of the committee and be a part of the establishment of it.
Anyone want to volunteer to be on the safety committee? It would be nice to have one city councilor on it. You don't have to, we're just asking. If there is none, then we will start with those 4. And if anyone wants to come on, please notify us, and very welcome.
Yeah, if you feel there's a need after the 4 you meet, the 4 heads should be able to handle what's going on. If you think that you need one more person, then I would look at that, but otherwise I think that we're in good hands.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to 6N. Oh, before I go on, I think we should have a formal motion to approve the safety committee per the recommendation of
The league.
the League of Minnesota. Yeah. So do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 6N, City of Moose Lake Ordinance Number 166, Certificate of Inflow and Infiltration Compliance. Administrator?
Yes, this is an ordinance that's been discussed many times. This is the most recent draft, so to speak. So this is an opportunity to have a first reading, and it's essentially just for your information at this time and for your review.
And it will be on the agenda for next month for questions and ongoing motion. Moving on to 6O, City of Moose Lake Ordinance Number 167, Tobacco Ordinance. Again, this is the first reading for your information. And if you please review it, and it'll be on the agenda for next month for questions and discussion and or changes and same process. And then we'll have the second reading and motion, or the third month if necessary for compliance.
I also included the Carlton County Tobacco Ordinance, just for your reference, so you can compare the two. In addition, I've been doing some work with some other individuals in the area, and I left some comments on the side of the tobacco ordinance, just so that it would highlight areas where we have opportunity to amend or change based on recommendations from county officials and other entities. So those will be removed as of next month, but I just wanted to leave those on there to spur any additional conversation.
Any questions by the council? Thank you. Moving on, number 7, reports and correspondence. We have none. Number 8, committee and board meeting minutes. 8A, the park board regular meeting minutes of January 10th, 2022. We have 8B, the Moose Lake Area Fire Protection District, November 8th, 2021. Number 9, I should ask, any questions on the minutes that we do have? Thank you. Anything of importance on the fire district to bring forward?
Well, at the end of the year, they voted to raise the levy by 2%. I voted no on it. They were $1,200 over budget, and I didn't think that that was enough money to justify a 2% increase, so I voted no on that. That's basically what's gone on there. They looked into expanding farther into Silver Township. They already do part of Silver Township, and they're going to be picking up the rest of Silver Township too.
So that's a whole new contract with them.
I believe so.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to announcements, number 9. Regular Moose Lake City Council meeting Wednesday, February 9th, 2022, 4 p.m. right here. Moose Lake Economic Development Authority Wednesday, January 19th, 2022, 12 p.m. at the City Conference Room. Moose Lake Water and Light Commission regular meeting Tuesday, January 18th, 2022, 1 p.m. Water and Light Office. Moose Lake Housing Redevelopment Authority Board Monday, February 14th, 2022, 11 a.m. Hillside Manor Office. Moose Lake Area Fire District Tuesday, February 8th, 2022, 6:30 p.m. at the Emergency Response Center. Moose Lake Park Board meeting Monday, February 7th, 2022, 6:30 p.m. right here. And we have a motion to adjourn.
So
Have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.